What's going on, guys? It's Greg Farley, aka Pegasus from the Wisefire Alliance, and I wanted to say I appreciate you guys for tuning in. The structure deck is out for Shaddolls, and that's really, really cool. But we're here today to talk about the rogue decks. The top rogue decks, Shaddolls, it'll be one of them, just trust me. But I wanted to talk about a lot of the decks that are already established, as well as kind of hint at, I feel like Shaddolls is a very, very strong rogue option. There's still a little bit of something missing, but we're going to work on that. That's why we have deck building, because somebody somewhere is going to figure it out. Trust me, between Tulsa this weekend and Vegas next weekend, somebody will figure something out. But we got to talk about the rogue decks and the rogue strategies that can actually do something. Right now we have Spiral being at the top of the heap, and a lot of people just don't like Spiral. A lot of people are playing it, or they just can't afford to play it. God has graced me with the opportunity to be able to play really any deck that I want. I'm comfortable, I live comfortably, middle class dude, so I can afford whatever, but a lot of people cannot. And so I always feel bad for people like that, because I feel like the game should be much like these structure decks. Shout out to the Shaddolls Showdown structure deck. But yeah. So with that being said, I feel like if they're not going to put the decks in the structure deck fashion, then there's some budget options that you can play, as well as some not so budget options that you can play that are doing something and making a mark within the game. Now, first off, we got to talk about heroes. Wherever in the world you want to put heroes, whether you think it's a meta deck or you think it's a rogue deck, it is going to be on your radar. Trust me, you want to have it on your radar. Otherwise, you're not going to have a clue as to what to do when it actually drops. I would say that Salamangreat is being used so much that it can't be deemed a rogue deck, because it was already a meta deck before that, and it's keeping up with the same winning percentage, which really says something, that it doesn't have Stalio and it's still doing the same thing. So Heroes is the first mention that I have to. The next one I have to mention Mech Knights, because it wins at a 64% win percentage. 64% winning percentage on YGO Scope. That is the dueling book access page that you can really see all the information. Go to ygoscope.com, just like I just said it. It gives you a lot of good information on a lot of stuff, whether it's specific cards and decks, but I'm talking about decks. And it wins 64% of the time. That means that this deck is real, and you have to be mindful of the Mech Knight engine and the Invoked engine. Now, the Invoked engine is going to be in Shaddolls as well, so it's also gonna throw off the numbers with Alistair, let's say, as a specific card, but it definitely is gonna have a real detail and a real impact on the Mech Knight engine, because it just is what it is. I mean, as long as stuff like Mechabud, Purgatrio, Purple Nightfall, all of those cards are working together, it's not really gonna change. And Kaijus are also a thing in that deck, so I think you have to mention that deck, Mech Knights being the number one. And even pure Mech Knights is a problem, but that's not as prevalent as Mech Knight Invoked. So remember, I meant Mech Knight Invoked. I think next up we got to talk about Dino. Dino is ignorant, and it's literally only going to get better with Eternity Code. Eternity Code and that green diamond dinosaur looking dude, that thing is ridiculous, and it's a 1-for-1 target. So you can already know what's going to happen from that. They may have to do something to Overraptor preeminently before it even happens. Shout out to my vocabulary, awesome vocabulary. Next up, obviously, you have to talk about Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. But next up, I want to talk about Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon is really, 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 really good going second, and it's going first. But when you mix it with the Invoked engine, with the Orchest engine, it's definitely going to be a threat that you have to pay attention to for obvious reasons, being that Cyber Dragon is Cyber Dragon, Cyber Dragon Nova, Cyber Dragon Nova. You don't ever want to stop it. You still don't ever want to stop Cyber Dragon Nova. A lot of people forget that. And then Infinity being a really, really strong card. And if you do go first, you still got like a Cybernetic Overflow. So there is an option that you have to go first and stop your opponent from being able to do something, or stop them from killing you and then following up and killing them, because Cyber Dragons really doesn't ever miss. If it catches you open in the proper fashion, it's going to kill you every single time. There's really not that many decks that are like that, or that are consistently going to stop you and be able to kill you. Overflow is that powerful of a card. So while I will say their first turn play isn't that good, it's still relatively important to talk about as being a rogue option. So Cyber Dragon is expensive. Again, like I said, these aren't budget options. These are just rogue options. If you don't want to play Spiral or Salamangreat, or you just have fatigue from playing other decks, older decks like Sky Striker, if you're trying to find a deck, which, some people are doing that, these are definitely a couple options. I think Grand Maju is the next one I want to talk about. Grand Maju is really easy to get a hold of, as long as you're not trying to play like Stromberg or anything like that. You can get like Gizmek Orochi, that's going to be like the rarest card that you have, and then you got Eater of Millions, or whatever targets that you want to play. Now, if you're playing Dangerous, it's going to get a little bit harder, but still, I feel like you can get somewhere without having to spend too much money. But Grand Maju is really good. He has an extremely high winning percentage for obvious reasons, is that when you finally summon him, the board is open, and they're usually going to die, because the deck banish, get to the point, knockout punch. That's what Grand Maju is always trying to do. Nothing's really going to change. So as long as that's a thing, as long as the deck still has the capability to do what it does, Grand Maju is definitely something you have to mention. The last one that I really wanted to mention is Infernoids, and that's a deck that's very near and dear to my heart, just like Shadal's, but just Infernoids is absolutely ignorant. However, its knockout punch being the fusion spell, it doesn't always land like you want it to, because sometimes decks like Subterror, decks like Altergeist, decks like, I can't even think, Grand Maju is an example of decks that you don't want to see during the day. As long as you can see a deck that touches their extra deck and nobody really knows that you're playing Infernoids, you can catch a whole lot of people and win games awful quickly. So I would recommend Infernoids to anybody that likes decks like that. Just make sure that you play very quickly so that nobody can see you in a bigger tournament, and then you can just wipe them out. You go second, you wipe them out. Other than that, you know, that's definitely something you have to take into account with certain decks, that you have to understand that in bigger tournaments, people are going to see you playing the deck and they're going to catch on to you, especially in like a top cut. You know, even in a local, somebody can do that. Trust me, somebody can see, oh, he's playing such and such. Okay, well, you go first now. Now you have to have your plan in place for your deck. So those are the decks, the rogue decks that I wanted to talk about. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We have an Invoked Shadal's deck core deck profile, I guess, and then we also got the structure one. It's a little bit more pure Shadal's, but it's really not. It's nothing that I'm going to surprise you with. The deck is awesome. I'm really eager to play Shadal's. I love Shadal's. We also have a versus duel, a live duel coming up. I haven't done one in a while. That's for a reason with my editor, but we are having one. It will be Cyber Dragon versus Hero. Make sure you tune into that. And then we got another discussion video. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And as always, YG baby.